Could big stompy robots be the way forward for Warhammer 40,000? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Glacial Geek video. I am Phil, the Glacial Geek, coming to you here from my house. Today, I want to talk to you about something that I think is on the minds of a lot of people. I haven't seen a lot of people maybe talking about it a specific way that I am, but I want to talk about this guy. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I want to talk about the brand new Chaos Knight model. Super rad. Didn't know I needed a tail on my knights, but James knew I needed a tail. But it's such a rad looking model. Not just because it has more birds than a Hitchcock movie, not because he's got Squidward tentacle arms over here, not because he's got a rad looking shooty gun, not just because he's got tusks, and not just because I did a sweet paint job on this guy that I'm super proud of. The reason I want to talk about him is because of what he represents and what came with his book. This is a brand new model and a rad looking model, and it's super exciting model that I think a lot of people have, when it was revealed, were super excited about. I know I certainly was, and was excited to get my hands on it and paint it up, and it now is making me want to do Chaos Knights. But there's something that makes this different than I think a lot of the other releases that have come out. In this, we have a large centerpiece model, a very cool looking model, a model that changes the paradigm of an army, and yet it's not broken. And that is important to emphasize, that it is not broken. I know there are a lot of people saying, it's like, oh, you can get a 5-up, feel no pain. It's like, yes, he can. But he also costs about a third of your 2,000 point army, you know? Or he costs like something like a quarter of your 2,000 point army. Either which way, he's a huge part of your army. And in the way that the game goes right now, he counts as 10 models for holding objectives, but there are a lot cheaper ways to get 10 models on there. And you can give him OBSEC, but you can get 10 models, you get 20 models with OBSEC that you're not going to be paying anywhere near what you will in points for this model. Yes, he has a 5-up feel no pain if he passes a psychic test, so now psychic armies can keep him from getting that 5-up feel no pain very easily. Yes, you can give him an extra 4 wounds if you take him as Herpetrex, but I mean, at the end of the day, you're still talking about a single model that has a 5-up invul save against shooting, that has no invul save against close combat, and his gun is AP -1, which isn't usually worth mentioning, and especially if you're playing against Imperial armor, it's definitely not worth mentioning because they don't care, you know? And his Squidward tentacle arms and his little tail is great. He's pretty decent in combat, but he's not over the top in combat, and he's definitely not, at the end of the day, game breaking. And I think that's important because, to me, it shows a way forward for the Warhammer 40K game and the way things are going to go for it. And I think it's important to look at that. The book it came with is exciting. It's fun. It's got some rad rules in it that I think are very flavorful and very entertaining. They have an upgrade that you can give to a knight that'll allow it to deep strike. Deep striking knights, ladies and gentlemen. Super cool. Definitely not game breaking. But it's super fun to drop down my flamey guy and just get flames right out of the deep strike there. But that's what it's worth. That's what it's for. I think they're strong. I think they can keep you in the game. I don't think that you're going to see them as 7 of the top 8 at a tournament. And I think that's important because they've made a book that's exciting. They've made a book that's fun. They've made a book that is flavorful, that has interesting mechanics, with the dread abilities and everything like that. It's a great book, but it's not broken. And I think that this shows that they are starting to get an understanding of how to balance things before they come out with an FAQ. So at the beginning of 9th, you had the Space Marines, you had the Necrons, who were very good, and they were very good especially against 8th edition codexes, because 9th edition codexes have always been good against 8th edition codexes. And they did very well, but they weren't broken. And as would get shown later on, as other codexes came out, certainly not broken, needing to be boosted with other things, like adding core for the Necrons, for instance, or adding the Armor of Contempt for the Space Marines. And as they've come out with other books, in my mind, having talked to some of the rules writers and everything, not about this, not recently, but having talked to them and understanding where they come from, their aim is to make fun, exciting books. And I think sometimes those fun and exciting books that are going to get people interested in a codex, in an army, sometimes goes a little bit overboard. Not because of an aim to make it overboard, but because in trying to make something cool and fun, they add some aspects that make them a bit broken. And so they've been coming out with FAQs. And recently they've been coming out with FAQs pretty quickly and balanced data sheets to try to keep things in balance and make it a more enjoyable game. Because I think at first they were reticent about putting out FAQs too fast and too many FAQs and too many balance sheets because people complained about them. But then it got to a point where people were more complaining about the fact that things weren't getting handled. And that's why they've come out with the balanced data sheet. That's why they've been coming out with FAQs as they have. Trying to make it so that these armies are reined back into a level that they had anticipated, that they had wanted it to be. But this Chaos Knights book, to me, shows a way forward of creating a flavorful book, creating an exciting book, creating a book that is strong and that'll be fun to play in competitive scene, that won't break it and won't break the meta and won't break the game, and doesn't require you to come out with a balanced data sheet about it, doesn't require you to come out with an FAQ, unless there's like some wordings in there that need to be fixed, which is what the FAQ is supposed to be. And I think this is the way forward. I think that the Chaos Knights book is an indication of the way that they're going to be playing, that they're going to be building these armies and building these codexes and building this stuff going forward. It really truly feels that way to me when you read it, because when you go through it and you see the powers, you see the abilities, they're very cool. And most of them you have to pay for. And other ones you have to choose. You don't get everything, and you don't get everything for free. But you can make fun and interesting mechanics with it. You can make fun and interesting lists with it. They have interesting interactions. They encourage you to not just spam things. They encourage you to take a mix of things, which is, I think, something they've been trying to do a lot with the codexes. They don't want spam. They don't want that. And that's why they've been trying to reduce it, like they have with the orc buggies, like they have in trying to increase the points of anything else that keeps getting spammed. They want to make it so that it's a more diverse usage of the book and all of the rules that they make for it. And they've done it, I feel like, with the Chaos Knight book. This book feels, in my mind, perfect. This is what I would want from every single codex going forward, and then eventually when we start getting them again. This is what I want. And I think that this is what they want as well. They want books that get people excited. They want models that are exciting, that make people want to buy them, that want to run them, but that don't ruin the game. Because they get enough hate that they're not aiming to break the game. I know there's people saying that their sale method is to break an army, make everyone buy, and then nerf it into the ground because they don't care about their players. I mean, that's BS in my opinion. Because at the end of the day, they want players to stay in the game. They want players to play the game because it's the only way that they create a sustainable system for their company to grow. And I know there's a lot of people that are angry, and the thing is, there's also a lot of people that just get angry because they lost their game to an army, and they would rather say this army is broken and OP than admit that they lost a game. So, I believe, honestly, earnestly, that GW would love to have a perfectly balanced game where the only reason that you choose one book or another is based upon the aesthetic of the army that you want to buy and build and paint, as opposed to the one that is going to break the meta, that's going to break the army, that's going to do anything for you. So at the end of the day, that's their ideal goal. they also want to make things interesting. They want to make things exciting. You see what they've tried with different aspects of, like with Genestealer Cult, that they've done this before, like with the 8th edition of Genestealer Cult especially. They made a book that was super cool, super interesting, had mechanics that were very unique and original, and pushed the boundaries of what the game could be. And I feel like they've done it again here. I mean, they added Psychers to Knights, which is super cool, but they did it in a way that feels okay. It feels good. It feels like they've made it balanced. And that's kind of what they want, because they want to have you sit back and go, I like spiky robots versus non-spiky robots, so I'm going to go Chaos Knights versus Imperial Knights. Or I like big stompy 5 models on my army as opposed to a horde of greenskins. Or I prefer 1,000 models on the board, so I'm going to go Imperial Guard and just put a ton of infantry out there because I think it looks rad on my shelf, I think it looks rad on the table. And there will always be better mechanics, there will always be better units, there will always be better lists for each of the books. But at the end of the day, GW would love to have it so that you literally just choose the army that looks coolest to you, that inspires you to make it happen. And that their rules facilitate the game, facilitate you playing in a way that makes it fun. Because that's how you build an audience, that's how you build sales. Because that's what they did. The reason that things shot up during quarantine was not because they had rules that were broken. It was because people were looking for projects to play with. They were looking for things to just build and paint and look cool and have fun with and think about. Not go out and win tournaments with. Once things opened up again and we got back into playing tournaments, people's salt started to come out again. And, you know, sometimes I feel like you need to throw a potato into the entire community sometimes. And yeah, sometimes it was because books were a bit tilted. You know, I get it. When you have Drukhari with us, or when you have Drukhari with, or Harlequins with like a 76% win rate, something needed to be handled. Something needed to be changed, and they did. They did. You know, I know that right now Tyranids are a bit OP in the meta. Honestly, I think that there's ways that they can tweak that book that'll make it fun to play, because I've played against it, and it honestly, when I played against it, it didn't feel broken. I mean, obviously, I think that people have found mechanics and found things that pile on top of each other that make them pretty dang good. And I also think that you have a lot of the top players at these tournaments playing with that book, which is always going to skew things anyway. Because you have like great players that do great things, like you have Sean Naden, who was winning with Eldar before the new Eldari book came out. So just because he won with Eldar does not mean it's broken, and it would add to the win rate. And the better players are going to play with the books that they feel they can do best with. And yeah, right now it's Tyranids. And usually it's going to be the newest book that comes out that people are going to be playing well with, because they want to try it. They want to try the new things. They want to see the new things. And there's also the ability for them to then find these interactions that work well with them. So if you have the top players, if you have all the top players playing with this book, that book is going to perform well at the GT. You know? Certainly there are times like you have like a 76% win rate with Harlequins, that perhaps something needs to be handled there. But at the end of the day, you have to take that with understanding that the top players playing this, that's going to skew their win rate. Because those top players were going to get high win rate anyway, regardless of what book they played with. But they were playing with the new book because that's the cool thing that's out right now. With that in mind, GW has understood that there are definitely some times that they've needed to balance things, and they've done it. So that's why they have the balanced data sheets, that's why they have the FAQs, that's why they've been coming out, and they've been putting them out faster than they had originally anticipated. They originally anticipated it was like once a quarter or something like that. They would come out and rebalance things, but that was okay when everyone was locked down and stuck at their homes and was maybe playing with a friend or playing with their roommate. But now that you're back into a competitive scene and you've got tournaments going on every weekend, they realized they needed to come out with it faster. And that's what they have with the balanced data sheet they've come out with. The second one, they keep balancing it as the things are necessary, which I think is great. I do. And I think that if you are going to have a scene that is going to be as vocal as the competitive scene, that has events that are going on every single weekend, then yes, you do need to respond to it faster than every quarter. And the people that don't want to keep up with all of these changes, take the things that you need to play the games that you're playing. If you're playing in a tournament, then yes, you need to take them. And you need to understand that, because that's what's needed to balance that kind of situation. But if you're just playing with your friends, if you're just playing with acquaintances, if you're just playing in your basement, if you're doing whatever, then you don't have to worry about these changes if you think it's going to ruin your guys' fun. And that's what it comes down to. So if you want to keep up on the rules, if you want to keep up on what's competitive, if that's what's going on in your scene and that's what the kind of game that you like to play, then you can keep up with it. And they do need to keep up with all of their releases to make sure things are as fair and balanced as they can get. So that the ideal of literally just choosing the army that looks cool to you is the platonic ideal that they want to reach. And they never will, because that's just not the reality of that you're going to get in this kind of game. But that's what they want ideally. And if they can't quite get there, they're going to try to get as close as possible. And I think that this book shows the way forward and shows them anticipating this and seeing things and coming up with rules that balance well and don't break the game and don't break an army. And that are just fun to have and build and make. So let me know what you guys think down below. What you've seen of this book in battle reports and in reviews and analysis that is out there. What do you think? Do you think that this book is fun? Do you think this book is cool? Do you think this shows the way forward for GW into the future of 40K and beyond? 41K, 42K? Let me know. Because I'm very excited for this book. And honestly, I am probably going to be starting a Chaos Knight army. The beauty is that I can use my Imperial Knights that I've had with House Geek and just have them, dabble in the diabolic and become a little chaosy, and then, add some spikier friends to the list for flavor and whatnot. So, but let me know what you guys think. If you think this is the way forward, if you think that this was a deliberate attempt by GW to show the way forward, that they're thinking about this, because the leeway that you would have on a book like this, you're looking at probably around the time that you have the first newer codexes that were starting to break things. And their development, the development line for the Abominant is way further back than this would have had. But the leeway for coming out with this book was probably around the time that things started to break. And the anticipation that they could have to see that was happening and kind of go back and kind of check on things. Maybe that's what it is, And I think that at the end of the day, you talk about, they talk about their playtesters. I think a lot of their playtesters give them, kind of set them up for when they're going to come out for the FAQ and when they're going to come out with the balanced data slate. I don't think that the playtesters are really getting it hands-on because of just the reality and the logistics of having to print out a book. Makes it that those kind of situations are more in anticipation of how they're going to have to, what to foresee what's going to be coming down the pipeline once it does become available to the grander public. But yeah, to me, this feels like the future, and I'm excited for it if it does become so. So let me know what you guys think down below. Also, if you want to share, like, and subscribe like all the other YouTubers say, do so, and it's much appreciated. I appreciate all the support that you guys do for this channel and keep it going. So I hope you guys have all enjoyed this. I certainly have. And until next time, stay safe and have fun.